A special shout out to Valerie. Thank you, Valerie. Congratulations on your victory. 2nd year in a row for the twerking contest. Good job, Val. Okay, now we're gonna go ahead and get started. The next speakers are actually my friends, and I'm very happy and proud to say that. We have Maria Palomo. She's been working in the mental health field for 11 years. She has had the opportunity to work with adults, children, and families. She's currently our director for our program, the Youth and Family Support Services at Boys and Girls Club. She's worked with school districts, unaccompanied minor shelters, private practice. She holds a bachelor's in psychology and a master's in rehabilitation counseling. She's also a licensed professional counselor in the state of Texas, as well as a licensed chemical dependency counselor. And with her today, we have Mayra Avila. Mayra is also a dear friend. She's our clinical supervisor for the Youth and Family Support Services at Boys and Girls Club. She has a Master's of Science in Social Work. She's currently a licensed board-approved clinical social worker supervisor. And she also works as the senior coordinator of counseling at South Texas College, Counseling and Student Accessibility Services. She's an adjunct faculty at Our Lady of the Lake University and certified laughter yoga teacher. She continues to work with the community. She's very much involved. So without further ado, welcome, ladies, and go ahead.
Good morning, everybody. We're super excited to be here and to be part of this conference. I'm going to try to make this presentation go as smoothly as possible. We have a couple of little video clips and music. Hopefully you guys enjoy it. So without further ado, let me go ahead and get started. Let me screen share. Okay. Let me see. Okay. So today's presentation is It's Okay If You're Not Okay. So Maria? I think, yeah, oh, yes?
We see the presenter view, not the full screen view.
Oh, let me see.
You can go to display settings and just put duplicate the view. There where it says display settings, I think it's
there.
yes.
Okay.
And then there.
There you go. There?
That looks good.
Awesome, thank you. Okay, so today's presentation is It's Okay If You're Not Okay. So I think given everything that has happened in the last year, I think most of us have gone through some type of transition as far as like work, maybe like our home life. Just overall, our typical routines are no longer very typical. They definitely experience some changes. And so I think many of us went through some type of emotional changes and not really quite sure on how to handle that. And so today we really want to tell you that it's okay if you're not okay. But part of that is being very much in tune with yourself, being aware of your responses to certain situations around you and so forth. So hopefully this presentation gives you guys a little bit of insight and some help. So today's objectives, we want you to understand the importance of self-care and stress management, being able to reflect and identify factors that influence your own mental health, what that looks like, to learn and engage with self-care practices and techniques to improve work-life balance, but not only work-life, maybe also your personal life and other interactions with peers. So I wanted to share this little clip, and let me see if we can get it over here. Let me know if you guys are able to hear it. Let me go through. Can everybody see the video?
You can see it, but Maria, you're not sharing your sound through your computer.
Okay, I haven't started, so let me see. There you go. There. Let me know if you can hear it.
Bad blood continues to brew between Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe. Will the co-stars ever survive this rift?
Russell, Ryan, thank you for coming. All right, Russell, would you mind grabbing those two handles there?
I'm not really kind of like a tech guy.
Okay, well, just humor me. Give him a squeeze. This device measures stress in real time.
I don't actually have any stress. I'm very relaxed.
Let's... All right.
I saw this in a TED Talk.
Kudos.
Nice choice.
Russell, I'm noticing a rise in your stress levels for some reason. Is there anything that Ryan does that causes you stress? No?
No, but occasionally he will interrupt me.
Can I
when
say something? Right now, your brain's in the driver's seat. Your heart's in the back seat. Why don't you let your heart in the back seat ride?
You know what, Ryan? Could you do me a favor? Why don't you sit down over there, make yourself comfortable?
Okay.
Right, we're just gonna work, just the two of us for a minute.
Hey.
You get a 5. Now, Russell, I want you to close your eyes. Sure, please. Trust me. Now, I want you to take a deep breath. Ryan, you don't have to do this. It's really just for Russell. Okay? No talking. Now, I want you to picture your perfect place, really envision it, and share with us.
Well, you see, I live in Australia, and I have a farm. It's gonna be around for miles. Riding my horse, just at one with nature. You know. That's where I like being.
Oh. What? You know, if I don't eat every 45 minutes, my blood sugar level goes.
Russell, go ahead.
I'm in the back paddock. I'm with my horse. And that's the place that I go to get away from.
Never seen levels quite this high.
I just want to go home.
I think we need to get you to a hospital, quite frankly.
I can hear the kookaburras call.
Kakabara.
Kookaburra.
Kakabara.
It's called a kookaburra.
How do they sound?
It's a laughing bird.
Laughing bird. Laughing. You're kissing my sister.
Bad blood.
What did you guys think of that? Stress looks a little bit different. What did you guys notice with Russell?
He was being annoyed, stressed out.
He was trying to stay cool, though. He was trying to go back to his happy place. How hard was that?
It was very hard, as you can see.
Did any of you cringe for him as you were hearing Ryan? Okay, so yes, stress is going to look a little bit different for all of us, really. And so he's trying to just keep cool and trying to go through the motions and get into his happy place. But of course, there was an external trigger that practically prevented him from really being able to get there. And even though he was trying to remain cool, his stress was still being measured going through the roof. Sorry. So what is stress? We tend to hear that word a lot. It's been very, very common for some time now. And stress looks really different for everybody, but really the definition of stress is ultimately the way you react to physical, mental, and emotionally to various conditions, changes, and demands in your life. So maybe if you're in a situation that you feel threatened, or an event that has changed what your routine looks like, or any small change that can be a common stressor. So even with the pandemic, occurring, and with COVID and a lot of overflow of information that we were receiving, so all those changes can be a source of stress. And even on our route back to some sense of normalcy, can be very stressful for many people, especially for our kiddos too. Stressors can be internal, thoughts, beliefs, or attitudes, or external, loss, a tragedy, or change. And even as we saw in the video, Ryan being sort of that external stressor for Russell Crowe. He was trying to, again, remain calm, but little things that he was doing, whether it was playing with the candy wrapper or little noises that were sort of working as his triggers. So what does stress look like for you guys? So there's a Padlet link that's going to get dropped into the chat box. And I'd like for you to go and put in what your stressors look like. And so this offers an opportunity. It's going to be it's going to be anonymous. It should be anonymous. And so you'll be able to just put what your stressors look like. Yes, it just got dropped into the chat box. So if you guys can go into that link and just put in a little note of what does stress look like. Growing more gray hair. I like that one. This morning I was having a moment when I noticed like a little bunch of gray hairs here and I was trying to pluck them out. I love that eye. Yes. How many of you guys have that little eye twitching suddenly and you're wondering, what is that? Not sleeping. Grumbling tummy, a sense of loss of control, maybe depression, tired, crying spells, emotional. Acne starts acting up. Okay. I can relate to the little girl. Definitely. How many of us can? Somebody put my teen. Snappy. Okay. Trying to juggle so much. Dogs barking when I'm on a call. Yes, when you live in a multi-dog home, that happens a lot, or when they ring the doorbell. No puede ser. Irritable. Okay, so I think for the most part, we have an idea of what most of us have, what most of us perceive as stress looking like. So bad language, the use of bad language, that's true. Where we no longer really have a filter and we're just sort of saying what comes to mind. Okay, so with that conversation we had, many of you guys gave an idea of what stress looks like. And so what are some of the symptoms of stress? A lot of the times we have physical symptoms, but oftentimes we don't really associate it with stress. We're not really self-aware. But It can be something that's very common, are headaches, sort of that nervous stomach, your change in appetite, rapid breathing, rapid heart rate, sweaty palms, being irritable. That was something that was mentioned. Fatigue, that was mentioned also in the post-its. Anxiety, insomnia, anger, where we're not having that filter, depression, and inability to concentrate. Now, some of the things here, if you really look at it, I think we've all seen enough commercials on TV that is promoting some type of medication for something. Most of them will use some of these words. Okay, so this is very common terminology that we're hearing on a daily basis, whether it's through media, we see posts, or we're hearing, on the radio or TV. And a lot of the times it's just specifically associated with, like, let's say anxiety, depression, or anger, but without realizing that these are also symptoms of stress. Okay, and sometimes stress is when we are able to understand where we're at, what is sort of causing us to have these triggers, we're able to work on it and manage it. But again, how many of you guys have felt any of these symptoms over the last 3 months? Oh, I don't know where my chat box went. Oh, there it is. Anyone want to share maybe an additional symptom that they have felt over the last 3 months, maybe related to something like this? Okay. I'm not sure why my chat box isn't popping up. Mayra, is there anybody putting anything on the chat box?
Yes, I can read them to you.
Mhm.
So they're talking about bad language, drenched. Oh, the bad language was the other one. Yesterday, something made me mad. Yes, trapped, exhausted, 100%. Increased sleeping, crippling anxiety, the kind where you can hardly breathe.
Okay. Okay. So yes, so many of us have felt something like this. If not in the last 3 months, definitely over the last year, especially I think once COVID started. I'll just share even for myself, being a therapist, kind of going through the motions of feeling tired. And it was just like, because I felt like, okay, I have to hold it together because people are depending on me, and then having to say, well, hold on, let me try to refill my cup so that I'm able to help other people. But yeah, these were very, very common symptoms. And I think nobody is really immune to any of this. It just varies on how much we feel it. So what causes stress? I know somebody put on the post-its, my teen, or maybe feeling overwhelmed with things or responsibilities, whether you're juggling different jobs, or we wear different hats as caregivers, maybe to a family member, to your children, you're even being in a relationship. So there's many sources of stress, maybe having some sense of fear, our own health, feeling like we don't have a lot of time, or our own expectations of ourselves. Anything that you guys can think of in addition to that?
They are putting on the chat. They had mentioned about death in the family, external and
Mhm.
internal factors, adulting, feeling
Mhm.
like someone punched you in the stomach, and family.
Mhm. And that's true. I'm glad that you guys mentioned loss, because definitely this has been a year where many, many individuals experience some sense of loss, whether it was a friend, or maybe a coworker, a family member, or just someone that you happen to know of, and maybe not being very close, but you sort of felt it. And it was just a huge reminder of, okay, this is different. We're vulnerable to some degree. And I think with that vulnerability came a lot of fear, came a lot of that additional sort of stress and concern.
Mary, they also mentioned all of the above, everything that was said, and then also grieving and drama at work.
Yes, yes. I think, and see, it's interesting you say drama at work, because I think most people don't necessarily want to be involved in drama, but because a lot of us were on edge. Somebody mentioned in the post it being snappy. So it was something was said, and it just kind of set everybody off, and it caused a ripple effect amongst your peers, and even in family. sort of being that person that was policing, like, hey, be careful, don't go out, don't do this. And then just sort of taking that role could have been also a sense of stress. And again, being on edge just in general creates more tensions. So I want to know from you guys, what is something that caused you stress specifically? So here's, if they can drop the Padlet link in for that one on the chat box.
They also mentioned, Mary, a failure to busy, and then somebody else said, love the failure to be busy. That was rough.
Hmm. Yeah, definitely. That was another thing. If you didn't really have a lot of things going on, and you had a lot of time to think, work piling up on us, that's definitely a good one as well. So I'm seeing school, family, friends, job losses. Myra, if you can read the chat, I'm seeing that there's being
Yes,
posted.
they're also mentioning work piling on us, being open during COVID and working directly with members, adulting, laugh out loud. It may have caused some anxiety with some staff, health, and loss.
Mhm.
Kids,
I
bills.
I see here my mom being 73, but not on a permanent vacation. Oh, my mom's 83 years old, and it was difficult getting her to sit throughout this entire time. We were constantly in an argument because she wanted to go out shopping to HEB. And so that was very stressful. So I can definitely relate to that, wanting to take care of our loved ones.
They also mentioned having COVID, afraid of job loss or closures,
Mhm.
aircon and car breakdown, caring for our loved ones.
Everything that comes in the package of adulting.
And then
Yeah.
they put, she is on a permanent vacation. She's like 19, taking jello shots from strangers, reckless.
Oh my goodness.
I love the humor.
Thinking I'm not good enough. Okay. That one's interesting. Overthinking the worst.
Negative thinking after COVID effects, inconsiderate family members.
Hmm.
When your workers don't work as a team, my boss. I'm gonna read this one because it's a little funny. My ex-husband, laugh out loud. That's what they put in
Okay.
the chat.
That's a good one. Okay. So these are definitely, I think we can all relate to um, one of these stressors that's being presented, and definitely we can see that most of us are on some similarity. I think one of the things with stress, we always kind of think like, oh, I'm the only one going through it, or someone really isn't going to understand. But realistically, as you guys can see, many of you guys have very similar responses to what is something that has caused you stress, not only in times of COVID, but just in general. So the ex-husband has been there pre-COVID, so he's definitely probably been a stressor, even without COVID or with COVID. So these are some things that have been independent of the current pandemic and that have been a source of stress. So when we are undergoing a lot of stress, there's a term that we often end up using, and it's called feeling burned out. So, like for example, the symptoms of stress that we went over earlier, those again can be huge indicators of, are you taking on too much? Are you at a point where that sort of you need to take that time out for yourself, because you're not going to be very useful to anybody around you, because at this point you're short tempered, your fuse is a lot shorter. If somebody says something, it's going to be a trigger for you, you're going to snap. And so then those concerns of, am I still going to be employed, am I not going to be employed? Well, if we're not really in a position where we're okay to be even performing a job, we might end up pushing ourselves into a situation that we get in trouble, or that we end up doing something that potentially compromises our employment. So again, that concern of always worrying about something can potentially lead you to something that has that result. When realistically, if we were able to kind of take that time out, take that break, regroup, take care of ourselves for a minute, and then come back, we'd come back a lot stronger and a lot more clear-minded. So again, we definitely want to be very self-aware of where am I at with regards to my stress, with regards to my concerns over my life or my situation right now. We don't want to be frank. We don't want to explode. And so burnout. So burnout is the emotional, physical, and mental exhaustion. It's caused by excessive and prolonged stress. So it's kind of like if you look at a rope and you're just pulling this rope and it's just got a lot of tension in it, eventually that rope will begin to de-thread. And again, you're going to see it eventually rip until it's completely ripped. So think of yourself as that rope. The more tension you're pulling on, putting on it, and you're consistently pulling, eventually it gives out. So again, that stress is that tension for the rope. So are you continuously just enduring stress and you're just prolonging, and you say, well, I'll take that break tomorrow. I'll take that, time out for myself in a week. I have a lot of work. I really can't afford to do that right now. My mom needs this, my mom needs that, or, my children need this. And so we continuously put excuses as to why we don't take that break. And so we're prolonging that stress on ourselves. Um, it occurs when you feel overwhelmed, emotionally drained, and unable to meet constant demands. You're sort of just running on fumes. Think of a car that you haven't put gas in, and you start hearing kind of, it backfires, a dun, 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 just running on fumes. I think most of us have had that, because I know I have. And then I start praying and hoping I can at least make it to the gas station. But that basically it is what we're doing to ourselves. We're just running on fumes. We're sort of expecting to continue to find that reserve, but it is tough. Somebody put something in the chat box.
Yes, it's a question. So how does one do that with short staffing? I feel guilty for taking time to go to therapy. I have always been given it, but the guilt is real.
Mm-hmm. And it is definitely, I think we all be, if you're in a position of leadership, also, it can be very hard where you say, well, I can't afford to do this. But think about it this way. Looking at it, a short term, maybe like inconvenience where you're out a day versus you ending up ill and having to be out a week or 2 weeks. What is going to weigh heavier on your staff, being out a day or being out a week or months? When we look at that, it helps us put our guilt in perspective and say, well, look, this is a small sacrifice for a bigger reward. And so we can choose to be there and say, no, I'm going to keep doing this, I'm going to keep doing this, but ultimately you're inevitably going to set yourself up for a bigger impact later on. There's someone putting something, Mayra? No, okay.
No.
So again, this can lead you to lose the interest and motivation if the stress continues. Negative effects spill over into every areas of our life, including, our home life, our social life. It becomes sort of taxing, because at that point you're drained. You're running on fumes. You're no longer really interested. You're sort of resorting to wanting to either isolate yourself a little bit more. You're sleeping a lot more, and again, you're not being really productive. And so those concerns that you had of like having to be there for everybody else, now you're physically unable to be there because you don't have the energy or you don't have the interest in doing so. So one of the questions to ask yourself is, are you on the road to burnout? Every day is a bad day. When you're waking up in the morning and you're saying, oh my gosh, here we go again, I have to do this again. And you're sort of now having this very negative relationship with every single day that, you're going through. You're caring for both personal and professional, may seem like a total lot. I'm sorry, a total waste of energy. So at this point, you're not invested. You don't have that drive. You're exhausted all the time. It feels like nothing you do makes a difference or is appreciated. So again, if you're sort of in that leadership role, and even if you're not, you know that you feel like, hey, I'm here, but nobody is recognizing my efforts. Nobody's really taking note of what I'm doing. So I don't really care. Your investment isn't there. And so one of the things to remember is that most of us are in a caregiving role, either in a personal or the professional life. And what does that mean? Professionally, when you're caring for children, you are in a caregiving role because most of these kids are coming to you. They depend on you in some sense. And so you have a responsibility. And so even though we think, oh, well, it's just work, you know, it is a caregiving role that we're taking up.
There's a comment in the chat box. As simple as it sounds, set your alarm 20 minutes earlier than you normally would. Make a concerted effort to sit for this for 20 minutes and just slow down. Literally, don't do anything. You can meditate, pray, or just sit, and the little reset each morning will set you up for an amazing day. At least that's what works for me. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you for sharing.
Hmm. That's really, really good. Now, what if you're not a morning person? What would be some ways to do that? What are some suggestions you guys have, like if you're not a morning person?
Run after work to distress, morning workout, set 20 minutes for something you enjoy doing, deep breathing at stoplights. That's good.
Hmm. Yeah, that's a really good idea. And it's realistically finding something that works for you. So I think one of the things that I've noticed is a lot of people say, like, if you put this structure, if you do this, if you do that. And honestly, I have found people that structure stresses them out because they're not like that. They're not the person that's going to put an agenda together because that itself overwhelms them. And so, really being very self aware of what works for you. Okay, so there's a lot of self help books out there. There's tons of ideas on Pinterest, on Instagram, and you can go through it. And I'm the person that gets a calendar and then I start off strong and then I don't, and then I end up with tons of post-its. And so I found this really cool app on my desktop, on my laptop, that has post-its. So I have little virtual post-its on my screen. So I can go through and I'm like, okay, I can delete this one. I can delete that one. So I'm very visual. But if I write everything down on an agenda, sometimes that can get overwhelming. So what works for you? Again, getting to know you. So I think part of stress and burnout is really getting to know yourself. So this topic, this presentation is about the relationship that you have with yourself, understanding what sets you off as a trigger, what is calming for you, because what works for you may not work for the person next to you or someone else. But it's really about that self-care and saying what's going to put me in a healthy and on a healthy mindset and allow me to have that wellness in my life.
Let me read a couple of more. This is the first that I hear this. Let your kids or your spouse spray cold water in your face. That's a good one. I
Okay.
am not a morning person, but when I know I have to wake up early the next day, I sleep early. Sing, dance to music you love. Go to Starbucks and get a frap. Sit outside in the evenings or night and enjoy nature. Go outside and get some fresh air and enjoy nature. Take time for yourself, self-care.
Hmm. Definitely. And also finding what's sort of the pillar for your life. So just to kind of share a little bit, for me, I got very caught up with work and I was putting my workouts on the back burner. And then I started feeling just like very stressed, very tired. And I'm like, okay, I'm not functioning at my optimal self. And I realized, wait a minute, I'm not taking time to work out. Because I was always coming up with an excuse like, oh, I have to get this project done. I have to do this. I have to meet with this person. And that was on the back burner for me. And when I started, I realized that I became very aware. I said, no, I put an alarm on my phone and that was like, hey, it's time for you to go work out. So I dedicated that hour. And at that point, it's like, I felt the difference and was able to kind of get back on track. So for me, if anybody ever asked me what's kind of like my center is the exercise. That allows me to just function so much better overall. So finding your own center, what is the one thing that brings you together that creates that balance and that pull for everything?
They also mentioning getting a cat. I disagree on that one because cats stress me. But yes, it may work for many. And then the same. They were saying the same from what you were sharing.
Hmm. A pet is great. I have two dogs, and they're very different personalities. They're stressful, but they're relaxing, if that makes sense. I think if you're a pet owner, you know that they do things and they sort of, kind of grow a couple more gray hairs, but they're very loving, and so that also can be a very big reward. And I know there's tons of studies and tons of research on the release of serotonin when you're petting an animal. So there's a lot of different kinds of therapies out there also with the use of animals. Okay. So you're totally replaceable at work. I know we don't want to hear that, but this is reality. But you're not replaceable at home. Home is your real life. Keep that perspective always. So I know we always strive to be goal oriented. Well, most people strive to have academic goals, employment goals, and all these wonderful things and career goals. But we also have to remember, what are we sacrificing, and is that something that we are okay with? And if we're okay with, then more power to you. But if you're not, and that sort of causes that stress for you, then learning to reevaluate where you're at, what's important for you. And I think something during COVID, again, I know I keep bringing it up, but honestly, I think COVID gave us all an opportunity to reflect a lot on what, where our life was going, what was important for us. Many people took it as an opportunity to just kind of stay in their little bubble with family. um, some families became a lot stronger as a result. You started spending more time with these individuals and not really going out places. You created new routines. If you were playing loteria virtually, or you were just going and having like a dinner or a lunch with that small bubble that you were keeping to. So it offered that opportunity for us to really take a look at what was important for us. What did it do for you guys? Did it change any of that for you? Did your goals change over this time?
Okay, somebody had made a comment about their cat was destroying their home. And then, yep, laugh out loud with what you just stated.
Yes. So, but yeah, really understanding that we are replaceable at work, but you're not replaceable in your home life or the people that you care about. So caring for yourself is not self-indulgence. It is a self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare, Audre Lorde. Um, so I've always heard, and many individuals have asked me, like, isn't that selfish when I'm just thinking about myself or thinking about my own wellness? Well, again, you can perceive it as selfish, but ultimately, looking at it short term versus long term, what is the effect? So, right now, if I need to take that time out and really take care of myself so that I can come back and be able to be that person that maybe my children need, that my husband needs, my partner, my mom, or anybody really, is it worth it? Is it worth you taking that time off right now, or that break, or incorporating that routine? And it's definitely something that a lot of the times people won't necessarily understand. For example, my family at the beginning, they were just always like, you prioritize working out, you prioritize that. And I said, look, if you guys want me to be there for you, and we all take, pitch in to help my mom, because again, she's 83 years old. In order for me to be there for you guys, I also need to be there for me. And so really educating them on that, they're like, you know what, you're right. At the beginning, it was a little harder, but now they're just understanding and they respect that time. So is it something that happens overnight when you start saying, hey, this is my me time? Maybe those around you are not going to understand it right away, but within time of you explaining and them seeing if you're in a better mood, you're sort of more lively, you're healthier, then they will begin to understand and respect that. Have any of you guys had those conversations with family where you say, hey, this is mommy time, or this is my me time, this is sort of how I take care of myself?
They were making some comments about COVID slowed us down some and made us learn new things.
Mhm.
Also, they were asking you recommend medication for stress. And then other comments, goals did change. We started to stack cash where we could and kill a ton of truly unnecessary things. Nothing is guaranteed. What felt like a stable service, job, life suddenly didn't seem so stable.
Mhm. Me personally, I think that there's different ways of managing stress. Of course, if it is excessive at that point and you feel that you need it, definitely consult with your physician. But I think that most of the things that cause us stress can be managed one way or another, and it's really having that support system also, somebody that you can bounce ideas back with, if you don't have anybody, or maybe you feel like, well, they're not really going to understand. I think counseling is always an excellent option. It really just allows you to think out loud in a non-judgmental setting and just work on those things within yourself with someone. But yeah, if you have like a close relationship with family, definitely asking for help. I know that that's always really hard for many of us, is to recognize, okay, maybe I can't do this on my own. We always like to be very self-sufficient for the most part. We are always taught to sort of handle things on your own and don't depend on others and all that. But sometimes we do need to ask for help. And so it goes back to that relationship within yourself and saying, well, you know what, maybe I'm very prideful, but I do need that help right now in order to get me past this hump, to be in a better state of mind, just healthier overall, and maybe having a better quality of life. So what is self-care? And so we kind of talked about stress, we talked about burnout and everything that kind of is jumbled into that. But what do we do about it? Okay, so now we understand, maybe we have all these triggers, we're feeling this way, we're feeling already at our wits end, our rope is very, very tense, we're on the brink of it, starting to rip. So now what do we do? So what is self-care? It's the ability to maintain physically, emotional, relational, and spiritual health in times of stress. Okay, so what does this mean? What do you guys think this means?
They're saying in the chat about me time. They also had mentioned that losing many things during 2021 really hits hard and shows us how to value many things to the fullest, as hard as it may be. Some of them, the examples are pedicure, reading a book, and going to the National Butterfly Center to walk and take pictures. They were also making a comment: "What if you tried and it doesn't work?" And then making time to do things that you love.
Okay, so with that, what have you tried and it doesn't work? When you start running, let's say if you're wanting to run a marathon, do you run once and then run the marathon already? Probably not. It takes time. It takes time for you guys to practice. A lot of the result, you're not going to see it right away. Like, for example, someone mentioned meditation. Meditation takes a lot of practice, a lot of investment, a lot of, patience, really. And so when you're looking at self-care, this isn't something that, oh, you run once and you're fine and all my worries are gone. It's really not about that, but more establishing a routine of care for yourself. So think about it. If you want to lose weight, if you want to lose weight, you don't do a Zumba class once and you eat good one day and you've lost those 10 pounds you wanted to lose. It is a process. You start adopting different maybe eating habits, you incorporate some exercise routines or different habits in general, and eventually it becomes part of your lifestyle. And that's really what self-care is. It is a component of your lifestyle, whether you're doing something for your physical health, for your emotional, for your spiritual health. Again, if you start on a spiritual journey, just going into wherever it is that you're going once isn't going to be that enlightenment right away. It takes time. You start creating a relationship with it. And that's basically it. Self-care is about the relationship that you have with you. How much do I value myself to invest in myself in these domains?
They also mentioned about repetition, and I did. I guess Rick tried what you were talking about, a marathon, but he didn't. Don't recommend it. Laugh out loud. And I try to go to church once a week to recharge. And then no one is successful straight out of the gate. We teach our kids this. We need to teach ourselves the same lessons. Yeah, I totally agree.
Absolutely. We're super good at preaching it, but then we don't practice it, right? And so one of the things that I've come to realize is that self-awareness is great, but what do you do with it? So when you say, yeah, I'm stressed, and then that's it. So what do you do with you being aware that you're stressed, with you recognizing that those stressors are there? Like you guys went in and identified what was currently stressing you. So now what do you do about it? Are you creating a relationship where you're venting, or where you're actually doing something and creating a plan to address it? And you may not be able to change other people, and that's something we need to recognize. For example, in the video with Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling, he really can't he doesn't have control over how Ryan is acting, but he does have control over how he's responding and how he's handling the situation. And so again, we might have individuals that we're not really getting along with, whether it's in family, coworkers, or situations that are external to us that we don't have control over, but we do have a control over how we allow it to control us, and how we respond, and how it's physically affecting us, whether it's physical, mental, emotional. um, so that's something to really think about. So with that self-awareness and you recognizing that this is going on, so now what do I do? What relationship do I create with it? Do I continue creating a negative relationship with it, or do I try to break that and do something to take care of myself? So the importance of self-care. It's part of the healing process. Again, if we've gone through different situations that have maybe left those emotional scars that we haven't really dealt with, or it's causing that emotional scarring for us, it's part of the healing. It is unique for everyone. Like I mentioned, what works for you may not work for someone else. And really identifying what helps you be in a better state, of course, in a healthy way. Developing your own self plan is the key. So again, tailoring that plan to yourself. I know there's tons of information out there and it can be definitely very overwhelming. But when you, like, for example, if you do a journal, that journal is about you. It's not about anybody else. It's about you. What put you in a negative mood? What puts you in a good mood? What helps you? And again, my favorite quote, and I think I've continuously repeated this, the longest relationship you're ever going to be in is the one with yourself. So you can have a marriage, you can have children, you can have the relationship with your parents, with your siblings, anybody, but the longest relationship you're ever going to be in is the one with you. And so what is the quality of that relationship that you want to have with you? How do you want to work with you? How do you make yourself the best version of you for you? And it sort of seeps into every other domain in your life. Start with a couple of new ideas, since it can be overwhelming to take on many new things at once. So you don't have to go on this binge where let me go clean out my closet and do all this and let me rip off the Band-Aid. Well, sometimes ripping off the Band-Aid can be extremely overwhelming and it sets you up for failure, but working towards ripping off that Band-Aid can set you up for success. So it just works differently for many people. So some people are good with like, let me just do it and get it out of the way. Or other people were like, well, I kind of need assistance. I need a tribe to kind of help me get ready for that process. So here we have a self-care assessment, and I'm hoping that it gets dropped in the Dropbox. And so that one, we're not really going to do it all, but this is something that self-care activities that are things you can do to maintain good health and improve well-being. You'll find that many of these activities are things you already do as part of your normal routine. So I'm just going to share it really quickly just to go over a couple of the questions. And this is something that you can use.
Mary, we're down to 11 minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Just FYI.
Oh, so sorry. Okay, well, that's an assessment that you can do to kind of work with for yourself. And I guess, yeah, so that my part is actually done.
It's okay. And all the questions are going to be connected to what we have discussed. They can do it on their own, and that should be fine. Do you want to share the presentation, though?
Yes.
Okay, so some of the comments that they were making: reward yourself by doing stuff that you like, or buy yourself a gift for self-care. Slowing down and mindfulness works wonders. Don't stress. There's a solution to everything. So part of my presentation, I'm not going to be able to go into all the activities, but I hope that you guys can have access to this presentation. That way, you all can be able to do them on your own. But when we talk about self-care, this has been, I started presenting on this since 2014, when I faced a job that I didn't like. I was given this job. It was like an $8,000 raise. I said, oh, why not? I have this new license. Let's do it. But when I was there, people around me started noticing that I wasn't me anymore. I was being miserable. I was like a robot going into that job. So that's when I learned the importance of self-care. Even though I've been in the profession for so long, I still never knew how bad it can damage us and how it can affect our family. So that's when I started working and presenting more on this. You can go to the next slide. So then I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna go briefly on this. So make time for yourself. You hold on, let me remove the chat box. That way it doesn't interfere with the presentation. So you can go to the next slide. So this is just you are more important, physical self-care. Physical self-care is something that usually is overlooked. And I tell you from experience, and Mary knows this in this past year that we've been working closer. She knows that before I never believed in exercise until I actually put it to get to practice. And that's something that I try to share with others as well. So even though you may be doing healthy eating, but if you're not doing the exercise piece, then that's where the whole balance is not going to happen. And what like for the past maybe year, 8 months or so, I have seen the difference in me. I've always thought that self-care, I already had it, that I was controlled after 2014. But when I started doing the physical exercise, I realized that, hey, it's true. Like there's so many benefits to physical activity. So then even though you can go to the next slide, even though that everybody may have a different different mentality of what physical exercise is, that's totally fine. It doesn't have to be very intense. It doesn't have to be like what Mary does, a lot of this, all these workouts. And I'm like, that I wouldn't do. But going for a walk at the park, I'm just going outside, getting up from your chair when you're at work, maybe doing some pacing back and forth. Right now I'm at my full-time job and I have a small office. So if I'm in a training, I usually just walk around and just so that I can get some steps. At the same time, I can be listening to the training and then be drinking some water because sometimes we forget that. And you guys are in a position where you're leading other children or you're leading staff, and you have to always be mindful that they're looking at everything you're doing. So at times we may not be able to take that break that we want, and that's where this being a little creative about how to get our steps in, how to work on ourselves, that's very important. So then here are some ideas on self-soothing. I'm not gonna go over them right now. Let's go into the next slide. This video, I'm not gonna go over it, but the YouTube link is there. This is a video of different workouts that you can do whenever you're in your office. They tell you, they'll walk you down through a 10-minute exercise. And if you are in an office and you have a stand-up desk, challenge yourself to be able to do the 10 minutes and then maybe work standing up so that you can be able to have that flexibility and be able to work on your body. The next slide. Okay, so then this is something that we usually don't think about. Like when I present on this topic, usually people tell me, "Oh, but it's okay if I skip my lunch break." It's not okay. The moment that you take that lunch break, even if it's a 30-minute lunch break, you're going to see the difference because you're going to be able to step out of that routine. It's like as if you're taking a mini vacation because you're not going to be dealing with anybody. You're just going to be dealing with yourself. And many times that's what we need. So then if we need to add it to our calendars, we need to do that. I do that here in my full-time job. Whenever I know that it's going to be a busy day, I make sure I add my lunch hour. Even if I don't take the whole hour, but at least a 30-minute break, that's good for me. So that's why I put there an example of your calendar if you're able to do that. And then also when it comes to unhealthy patterns, many times we skip meals. We do a lot of fast food. Like here at work, whenever we want to do fast food, we go to Chick-fil-A because that's for us, that's the best thing to do. But you want to look into that. Okay, if I'm going to have to do a fast food, which one is going to help me? Or should I rather get a salad than going for a hamburger? Like which one's going to be healthier for me? So always try to look ahead, think ahead of how you can be able to establish and balance everything out. Next slide. And then these are more ideas on what you can do when it comes to your sleeping patterns. It's very important that we sleep at least between 6 at the minimum, up to 10 hours every night. If you are seeing that you're not sleeping not even 6 hours or you're sleeping more than 10, then you want to do a self-evaluation. What's going on? Am I sleeping too much because I don't want to think about anything? I don't want to think about my problems? Or am I feeling stressed and that's why I'm not sleeping so much? Check in with yourself and try to see what other behaviors have changed that I may need to be more aware of. There is a link for a sleep diary that you can always put into practice, and there's some ideas and things that you can do before going to bed because your body needs to rest. The same way that we need to eat to have the nutrients in our body also needs to take that that pause and be able to sleep for at least 6 to 10 hours. Next slide. Okay, so taking care of your medical care, medical health. Many times we always tell others, like especially during COVID, the moment anybody started sneezing or coughing, you would tell them right away, hey, go to the doctor, go get tested, go get checked. And but how many times do we tell ourselves that? I have made it a challenge where, well, now I unfortunately I dealt with medical issues that I had to take care of them now. So during COVID, for me, the blessing was that I was able to take care of two big medical issues that I had neglected so bad. And 2020 gave me that flexibility to do that going into 2021. But before this, I would at least challenge myself, hey, go once a year to the doctor, go to get a dental checkup, do everything that you need. But it's easier for us to tell others. But now look at yourself and reflect, when was the last time that you went to the doctor? If you do have insurance, you're blessed to have that. If you don't have insurance, then that's where all these resources can come in. Yeah, reach out to 211. We're all in Texas. You can just call 211 and just tell them, I don't have insurance, but I need to see a doctor, and they'll be able to guide you on that. Next slide. And then this is an activity that we don't have time to do right now, but these are some songs. These are different different type of songs. So what we want is we want to find out the song that is going to give you that good mood that you want to be looking out for. So let's say that if you're having a tough day at work and right after you get out of work, you want to just distress from everything. So look into it. What songs are going to help me cope better with this life or with this work stressor so that when I get to home, I'm able to just be fully myself. So I do that a lot. If you ever see me driving on the road, you're gonna see me singing because I don't care. I just detach from work to home and from home to work so that I can be able. Oh, don't worry, be happy. That's a good song. So that you can be able to just focus on the here and now and focus on what you need to for that moment. She refilled her pitcher, and in doing so, she was able to refresh everybody around her. So always remember the importance about taking care of ourselves so that we can be able to take care of others, especially if for your personal life, if you have, if you're taking care of children, you're taking care of elderly, they need you 100% there. And the same thing at work. If you're leading staff, if you're working with children, they need for you to be well in order to give them the best of you. And then some other ideas you see here, mental and emotional self-care. These are some ideas, journaling. You can even do it in paper or in your phone. Sometimes on their notes, you can now block your notes or you can make them private. So that's a good way of blogging or journaling or just putting your emotions down. Dancing Queen, I don't know if that's a song, but how you feel throughout your day. So just make sure that you're expressing your emotions. Let's go on to the next slide. Connect on social media. If you want to kind of be connected with other self-care techniques, you can go through Facebook or Instagram and you'll be able to find either motivational quotes on a daily basis so that you can be able to just stay checked in with yourself. The next slide. And then counseling is for everybody. For those of you that have any insurance, like for example, here for Blue Cross Blue Shield, right now they are providing free virtual visits. You can start with them. You can see them like this in a camera or just over the phone, but you don't have to pay a copay. If not, just check in with your insurance so that you can be able to see what is the process for that. The next slide. And then mental and emotional meditation, relaxation exercises, mindfulness, traditional yoga, laughter yoga. Next slide, we'll be out on time. Phone apps, there's a lot of phone apps that are free for you to have and just download them, or also just music apps. Or if you have a smartwatch, the relaxation deep breathing app. Next slide. These are some finger holdings. You can go to that link and you can be able to read more on how working on your fingers can be able to help you to relax and be able to deal with emotions that you may be going through your day. And then tracing your fingers whenever you do need to do some deep breathing, inhaling and exhaling. This is a good technique that you have with you. You can always take advantage of that. Whenever you're needing a break throughout the day, spiritual, just remember to be able to continue guiding yourself with your beliefs and what you think it's going to be working for you more effectively. Let's go on to the next one. Acting upon things. Okay. And then always don't forget to laugh, use humor, be able to see the positive side of things, maintain healthy relationships, and set goals for yourself, challenge yourself, and don't break yourself. And the rest are extra resources that you can always look for. I believe there's a video that you can watch. This is a good quote that you can be guided by. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And the rest are going to be resources. But thank you so much. I hope I covered what I needed to.
Awesome.
Sorry, we
Thank you.
thought we were gonna have a lot more time.
It's okay.
It's okay. Thank you so much, Mayra. Thank you so much, Maria. I'm sure, I hope you guys got some good resources. Also, just keep in mind that, like the title says, it's not okay. I mean, it's okay to be not okay, but it's not okay not to do anything about it. There's a lot of resources, a lot of supports, a lot of help. We're all going through this together. So it's really important, especially like you said, so we can pour and refresh everyone so we can help kids around us. Thanks again, ladies. Okay, so
Thank you.
now we have, without further ado,